We want to turn now to an issue. This next issue has destroyed so many families across the country, and in particular right here in New Hampshire, heroin. And there's a stunning new figure out. A recent poll, 48% here in this state alone say they know someone who has abused heroin. We're going to turn tonight to Dan Toohey of the New Hampshire Union Leader, who has this question.
New Hampshire has been hard hit by the heroin epidemic. We're on track to have twice as many overdose deaths this year as in 2013. What specifically would you do to address this crisis?
Senator Sanders, I'm going to take this to you first because you've seen what's happened with heroin right on the border in your own state.
Look, this is a tragedy for New Hampshire. It is a tragedy for my state of Vermont. It is a tragedy all over this country. The number of heroin deaths are growing very, very significantly. What do? Well, for a start, this may seem like a radical idea, but I think we have got to tell the medical profession and doctors who are prescribing opiates and the pharmaceutical industry that they have got to start getting their act together. We cannot have this huge number of opiates out there throughout this country where young people are taking them, getting hooked, and then going to heroin. Second of all, and the reason that I believe in a healthcare for all program, we need to understand that addiction is a disease, not a criminal activity. And that means radically changing the way we deal with mental health and addiction issues. When somebody is addicted and seeking help, they should not have to wait 3-4 months in order to get that help. They should be able to walk in the door tomorrow and get a variety of treatments that work for them. So those are some of the areas that I think we've got to move on.
Senator, thank you. Secretary Clinton?
You know, on my very first visit to New Hampshire in this campaign, I was in Keene, and I was asked, what are you going to do about the heroin epidemic? And all over New Hampshire, I met grandmothers who are raising children because they've lost the father or the mother to an overdose. I met young people who are desperately trying to get clean and have nowhere to go because there are not enough facilities. So this is a major epidemic, and it has hit New Hampshire and Vermont particularly hard. I've had 2 town halls, one in Keene, one in Laconia, dedicated exclusively to talking about what we can do, and I've heard some great ideas about how law enforcement is changing its behavior, how the recovery community is really reaching out. And I was proud to get the endorsement of Mayor Walsh of Boston, who has made his struggle with alcoholism a real clarion call for action in this arena. So I've laid out a 5-point plan about what we can do together. I would like the federal government to offer $10 billion over 10 years to work with states, and I really applaud Governor Hassan for taking up this challenge and working with the legislature here to come up with a plan. We have to do more on the prescribing end of it. There are too many opioids being prescribed, and that leads directly now to heroin addiction. And we have to change the way we do law enforcement, and of course we need more programs and facilities. So when somebody is ready to get help, there's a place for them to go, and every law enforcement should carry the antidote to overdose, naloxone, so that they can save lives that are on the brink of expiring.
Secretary,
David,
thank you.
I actually know a great deal about this issue, and I have a dear friend, played music with him for years. Remember when he came home with his baby girl, and now she's no longer with us because of addiction and overdose. My last time in New Hampshire, I had to take a break shortly after landing and call home and comfort a friend whose mother died of an overdose. Drugs have taken far too many of our citizens. It's a huge public health challenge in our own city. I mentioned before we had become the most addicted city in America, but together every single year I expanded drug treatment funding in our city, and then I expanded it in our state, and we were saving lives every single year, doing the things that work, intervening earlier, understanding the continuum of care that's required until we got hit, like every other state in the United States, especially in New Hampshire and in the Northeast, with this opioid addiction, the overprescribing. I agree we need better. We need to rein in the overprescribing. But I have put forward on my plan a $12 billion federal investment. We have to invest in the local partnerships, and the best place to intervene, the best indicator of when a person is actually on the verge of killing themselves because of an addiction, is at the hospital. that very first time they show up with a near miss, we should be intervening there. That's what I said to my own public health people. What would we do if this were Ebola? How would we act? So many more Americans have been killed by the combination of heroin and these highly addictive pain pills, and yet we refuse to act. There are things that can be done. Go onto my website. My plan is there. It's one of 15 strategic goals I've set out to make our country a better place by cutting these sorts of deaths in half in the next 5 years.
Governor O'Malley, thank you.